And the guy on the phone right now is our good friend Joe DiGenova, legal analyst here for WMAL. Joe, how are you?
I'm great, Brian. Just terrific.
All right, so I want to start out by talking about our Justice Department and how it's now going to get involved in the lawsuit regarding the Defense of Marriage Act. What do you think about that?
Well, the President of the United States ordered the Justice Department, as you know, last year, 2 years ago rather, not to defend an act of Congress, the Defense of Marriage Act, and this is a natural consequence of that. They are going to court now, and they are arguing in a brief that they just filed with the Supreme Court that the Defense of Marriage Act is unconstitutional because it denies equal protection to same-sex married couples. In other words, in the particular case there, it denied a woman whose female partner died equal treatment under the federal estate laws. So they're saying that because of that, this law enacted by Congress is unconstitutional.
Yeah, and what's the precedent for that? When an administration just comes in and decides that a prior administration, it's not like this is something from 100 years ago. This was
right.
The Clinton administration. They just come in and say, oh, yeah, well, that's unconstitutional now, and now we're going to completely operate against it.
Well, this has happened only rarely in American history that the president has refused to defend duly enacted laws which have, prior to the recent litigation, been upheld by the courts. It's unseemly. It generally is not done. And but again, this administration operates under a different set of rules, which have been enacted by the American news media, which means that they can do anything they want. Including reverse themselves, as they've done with the war on terror and adopted most of George Bush's tactics.
Some would say gone further than George Bush ever went.
Well, as you know, now it's okay to kill somebody. That's not torture, but waterboarding is.
Yeah.
You go figure.
Joe DiGenova, let's bring it home here to the district. I don't know if you've been following the story of Jim Graham. I know.
Hard to miss Jim Graham.
Yeah, I know. So now where does this stand? Because it looks like the D.C. Superior Court there has basically said, all right, well, we've done all of our business here. It's now up to the council to mete out whatever further punishment there is. Well, why is that?
Well, what happened here was Jim Graham was found to have violated the city's ethics rules by interfering in a Metro contract. While he was on the board of Metro, while he was a city council member. He went to court to try and block the city council from acting to reprimand him this week. The chairman of the council has indicated that they are going to seek a reprimand of Jim Graham, which has absolutely no effect whatsoever on him legally.
Well, and there are no criminal charges at all. This is just a violation of...
This is a pure ethics city government legislative issue. He has not been charged with any crime. And so what he did, he went to court with his lawyers, very good lawyers, may I say, from Zuckerman Spader, to try to set aside, to stop the reprimand in city council. He wanted an injunction issued by the Superior Court. And the judge sitting in the
said, I ain't getting into it.
He said, folks, this is a legislative issue. We have nothing to do with this. You're out of court, Mr. Graham.
Nice to see a little judicial restraint there and not getting involved. But
highly unusual for Washington, D.C. area to see some restraint by judges.
But you've been around Washington for a while. I mean, the way politics works in D.C., I mean, this could only help his political career, right? If he's got an ethics violation?
Well, he claims it was just the usual horse trading. The difference is he wasn't acting as a legislator when he was sitting on the Metro board. He was a member of the Metro board. And so, and of course, as you know, between the Metro board and WMAL, that's a place to go to make money.
Yeah.
Well,
and another place to make money is the alcohol beverage regulation, and that's what he is in charge of oversight of that.
Maybe not for very long.
Well, I don't think he's going to keep that.
That's what they're going to rip off.
Right.
The chairman of the council has indicated he's going to be stripped of that authority.
All right.
Yeah.
So some justice here in the district.
A little bit.
Are you following the governor of Maryland and his desire to change the gun laws in the free state?
I am following it so closely that on Saturday I bought a 9mm Beretta in Easton, Maryland.
Made in Maryland, by the way.
Made in Accokeek, Maryland.
Yeah, not for long.
Along with your caller who called in earlier, I also purchased what's something that's called an M6A2, which is the equivalent of the AR-15, and it's made by a company in Cambridge. So there are two cities in Maryland which have some of the best gun manufacturers in the world.
Joe, hold on a minute. This is like the second time that I've heard you say you've been out buying a bunch of weapons.
Do you know something we should know?
I mean, do I need to start to worrying?
Well, I'm getting ready for Martin O'Malley in case he becomes president, because this clown actually thinks he's going to be the next president of the United States, and he is bringing a kind of soft sell nutsy leftoism that would only work in the state of Maryland, where they are losing jobs so rapidly that the only thing they can do is increase taxes to pay for the huge government that they've created over the last 40 years.
Haven't we come a long way from the mid-'90s? The era of big government is over. The Clinton movement, the DLC, the Joe Liebermans of the world. Now, to run for national office in the Democratic Party, you have to ban guns and you have to reinstate the death penalty. What has happened to that party?
This is the new normal. The Democrats have managed to convince enough of the American people that we need to be doing things their way, that they just won a national election. They picked up seats in the Senate. They picked up seats in the House of Representatives because of an incompetent messaging machine by the Republican Party, which continues to this day. And so the answer is, as long as there are incompetents in the Republican Party who don't know how to message and don't know how to fight, this is going to continue to happen. So my advice, buy your guns, save your money.
Joe DiGenova, really quickly, you have to follow all these things here in the States. I wonder, are you also following this fascinating crime story in South Africa with the Blade Runner?
An unbelievable story of police incompetence.
Yep.
But they are known, by the way, since the end of the old government and the beginning of the new government. South Africa is known as one of the most lawless countries in the world now. We know people who have gone to South Africa on business. Everybody who goes there now gets bodyguards when they land on the ground. You cannot leave your hotel in the major cities in South Africa without threat of kidnapping or robbery. South Africa is in a state of almost total legal chaos.
Well, and knowing that, then it sort of makes sense. I mean, it sounds so weird that this guy would go to sleep with these, weapons all all him, but
that's what happens over at Joe's house every night.
Apparently,
actually, we have a gun safe, but but here's the other thing about
really fast, Joe,
real quick
about Pistorius. He actually had a legitimate reason to have a gat out because his house had been burglarized before.
Yeah. All right, Joe DiGenova, our legal analyst. Always a pleasure to have you on. Happy Monday to you, Joe.
Yeah, and thanks for listening from 5 a.m., Joe. Did you notice that? He's referencing a caller from 5 a.m.
I just can't stop.
I don't blame you.
And many people are finding that that's the habit they're having a hard time breaking.